Hi folks, I want to do a quick video about how to level up your character since you'll be doing it a number of times. I've created two characters here in Foundry for this. There's Marshall, the Marshall character, and Shelly, the spellcasting character. So these kind of have different things that you pay attention to as you level them up. A Marshall character means more of a physical fighter if you're not familiar with that term. So if I double click on his icon here, it'll show up with his character sheet, digital character sheet. You usually start here on the character tab and it'll show you what he's good at. Because I haven't really properly made him, he's terrible at everything. And then if I go over, you'll see kind of more of what he can do: make fresh produce and other things that he's been given. So this is a human race, some kind of battle trained. This is essentially culture, class, which is kind of what they're good at, and then background, kind of more definite culture about what they've done. Here you can see the speed is 25, meaning that since each square is 5, if I drag him 25, that should be his speed. If I drag him more than that, you'll see that it changes to yellow, meaning you're going to need 2 moves to do that. And if I drag him past 50, you'll see, oh, you're going to need 3 moves to do that. So I'm just dragging around with left click, and this should work. I mean, this does work for you as well. It's not just a thing that I have access to. You'll also notice there's some difference in the diagonal measurements. That's a thing in this game. In proper Dungeons and Dragons, it doesn't matter, but this one you kind of get like some kind of a hypotenuse calculation here. It's actually, if you're doing the math, it's not quite that straightforward, but the system has it built in. But he's not moving today. Let's go through leveling up. So almost all leveling up is done through features, and all features have different kind of tags on them. I'm going to introduce this idea through going through his inventory first. He's got a couple different items. A sword. Well, this sword might be a little too vanilla, actually. We'll go with it. So we have 2 different weapons here, and they have different traits on them. You can see this sword he has is a martial weapon. That means this means if you're not trained in martial weapons, you're not going to be as good with it. You can see if you use it two-handed, it'll give you a little more damage, and it's a common kind of weapon, meaning you could find it anywhere and you don't need to ask me in order to purchase it somewhere, for example. This bayonet has a couple other features associated with it. The longest one here at least, is attached to crossbow or firearm, meaning you can't just use a bayonet by itself. I mean, it's kind of a dagger and kind of not, but regardless, it's not intended to be used by itself. It's also common. It's also a martial weapon and has these 2 other tags on it: agile and finesse. If you've noticed, anytime I kind of hover over this for more than a second, it'll pop up and tell me what that actually means. Agile means the multiple attack penalty, meaning if you attack with this weapon more than once, it actually decreases that penalty a bit, so it's nicer for you. And then finesse means you can try to hit it with your dexterity, even though you always use your strength for how much damage it does. So for weapons that you would consider kind of skill-based, rapiers, whips, things like that, and how they do their damage is not really how hard you hit with it. You can choose to use your dexterity if you're a character that's very dexterous but not very strong, for example. The idea between these kind of features is that as you go find different equipment that have different kind of tags on them, characteristics on them, basically all the good ones like agile and finesse, they make it better than normal, right? Well, you'll end up paying some kind of cost for that. Maybe it's got lower damage, or maybe it just actually costs more. This is actually pretty cheap. But in general, there's going to be a trade-off. So the main idea here is don't invest too heavily in weapons that you don't use. If you're not very dexterous, find something other than a bayonet to hit someone with, and it'll be better for you. Okay, a quick introduction to these tags, which are found all over kind of the upgrade system. So I wanted to introduce that concept. With all these different tabs here, there's spell casting, crafting, etc. This metal one, meaning like a medal you win, is the most important as we upgrade our characters, and it's going to show different feats that you have. So Marshall is a kineticist, a wood kineticist. We have a couple kineticists in our group right now, which is why I picked this. And he can do different things. He has different things that he's learned from his ancestry, meaning his race. He's kind of well trained. He doesn't. Humans are pretty vanilla, so they kind of give them broader ancestry feats, but weaker ancestry feats, and normally more of them. You can see he has a class feat here called Fresh Produce that is related to him being a kineticist. You can see this feats also have tags. You can see this one does healing. It's an impulse, which is a kineticist thing you should be familiar with if you're playing a kineticist. It makes plants. It's primal, meaning kind of like elemental magic, and then it's you need to be a wood kineticist in order to use it, which he is, etc. So, and then it tells you what it does if you use it, and you keep gaining levels. So this is a class feat that he took, just because, and these are related to his class, in this case kineticist, but you could really put anything in here if you don't want a class feat. I think you can always use a general feat that I guess we won't talk about specifically here. And then a skill feat, which makes him better at crafting. So there are kind of different pools of feats. He's already set up to go. If we say that we level him up, let's just give him one level here. You can see that he gains a couple extra things. The first is that he gains another class feat at level 2, so he could get a level 2 feat. And he gains an archetype feat, meaning if he wants to kind of learn a different kind of study, a skill feat, and a skill feat as well. So the class feats are the most important, usually the strongest, and almost always the most special. So these are the ones to pay attention to most. Archetype feats are kind of like if you want to branch out and try to learn a little bit of what a witch knows, or what a wizard knows, or what a juggler knows, or there's a bunch of them. These feats all have the dedication tag, which we'll talk about in a second, because if I go into class feats, it's going to pull up dedication tags as well. And skill feats are all skilled. So they'll have tags is how you filter these out. So if I click on this magnifying glass here, it'll pop up a window that will be able to browse a bunch of stuff, and you can see there's just a tremendous amount of things here. Most of them just aren't that interesting. And a lot of these, as I mentioned, are dedication feats, meaning like different, if you want to learn how to, be like a celebrity, or to be a blessed one, or a barbarian, like these are the school of thought feats that I mentioned in these archetype feats, and I would say they're probably better to take as archetype feats and not as your class feats. So, how to filter these out? As you can see that we're selecting any of the above, of the kineticist or the dedication tag. I say I'm not interested in dedications. I want the real meat and potatoes stuff specific to my class. And if I say I have actually looked at all the level 1 ones, I just only want minimum of level 2, maximum of level 2, and they've filtered it down pretty quickly for us. So kinetic activation, voice of elements, these are common. And kineticist is the only tag on there, meaning you have to be a kineticist. Well, there are other kinds of feats that you could take. Since I'm a wood kineticist, and let me take the minimum to 1. So now, all of the above. So now it's showing me traits that are wood kineticist specific, and you can see there are actually none unique at level 2. They're only level 1 ones, which I guess is why when I went up here it didn't show any. But regardless, this is how you find if you're a specific kind of kineticist, you're going to want to put that in. If you're If you want to find combination, like for example, like wood, if you're a wood and water or something, kineticist, you could see what feats are available with you that require both of those, since we have all of the above selected. And this bladderwort something or other sounds a little bit weird, but that's what we get. Regardless, these are the class features. As you might suspect, you can always take anything lower, but not anything higher. Right now, this is showing any traits that have the kineticist, so it's giving me burning jet, which is a fire kineticist. I actually don't want that. I only want just vanilla kineticist or wood kineticist stuff. So regardless, these are kind of my options here that I want. Let's see, I think I've got most of these. Hardwood armor, timber sentinel, and fresh produce. So the only thing I don't have is hail of splinters. I'll drag this over. Class feat. Oh, it showed up in bonus feats for some reason. Okay, here we go. I dragged it over to the right spot. Regardless, so you would do the same thing for archetypes. If you were interested in, we'll say like, we want dedication feats here. If I want to like shop for neat things to become, we'll say, well, not zombie. These rare ones you should probably ask about because they might be weird in our current campaign. But the others are, I mean, even uncommon, you probably don't need to really ask about. But the common ones, which are unlabeled, you can just kind of pick at will. If you want to be a wizard, we look at this dedication. You suddenly gain the ability to cast spells like a wizard. You need a spell book, and you get 4 cantrips. And you gain the cast a spell activity, blah, blah, blah. You act like a wizard. At the end, you can't select another dedication feat until you've gained 2 other feats from the wizard archetype. So, if I were to try to gain some other feats, let's say I took the wizard dedication at level 2, and then some way down the road I wanted to learn some other stuff that wizards can do. I could take any of these feats if I put in wizard feats and kind of drag them over to my archetype feats, and it would say like, hey, you can act like a wizard in this way now. So that's how archetype, class, skill feats is similar, but they're related to like crafting or athletics, etc. And that is a martial character. One other small point, I mentioned equipment a little bit. I've set up this game so that your equipment will get stronger as you get stronger, which is to say, don't worry about being married too much to your equipment. If you find something neat, it's going to be just as strong as the strongest item you had. These are what's called a variant rule, meaning you could play it this way. What that means is that you get a little less gold instead of having to play the mini game every couple days in game of upgrading your stuff. Okay, let's go over to Shelly. So Shelly is level 1. She's actually missing some feats. You can see she has some ancestry feats from being a human. She's just like the other person. And class, well, she doesn't have any class feats. And if we level her up to level 2, she does gain a class feat. So I would click on this class here. Again, I don't want dedication. I don't know why it's there by default. And you can see she could gain a familiar. If I were only interested in the level 2 feats, these bottom ones here, enhanced familiar, anoint ally, whatever these are. So my main point is you could filter it out and not have to look through like 150 things because there are a lot of options. You could filter it out. I don't want dedication feats. I just want normal sorcerer stuff. And you can see those. And again, if you just want level 2 stuff, you can slide with this and select that. So you'd select this the same for a spellcaster. In this case, Shelly as well. Shelly's actually, you'll see, kind of set up a bit differently. The other thing you'll want to do is come into the spellcasting tab. And there are 3 different headings here. There's innate spells, meaning these are just, you don't cast these like a these are just part of you, like kind of like a druid nature thing. You're not really learning magic with your brain. It's just part of what you do. There are innate spells, there are spontaneous spells, and prepared spells. So innate spells mean you don't really need to. Anyway, they're just learned in a different way, I suppose. Spontaneous and prepared are what you'll see in different kinds of casters. Spontaneous means you just pick what you want to cast in the moment. And prepared means you have to, when you wake up in the morning, you have to write down what spells you want to use. The idea is that you're studying. Okay, I'm going to take 2 heals today because I know where we're going. You'll notice between the two, let me get rid of this because it's not as relevant. All casters fall in one of these two. They either can just cast spells from the ones that they know, or they have to prepare and have X amounts of casts of. They have to prepare specific spells. So you could see that I have cantrips, which are kind of easier spells, or they're easy enough that you can cast infinity of them. There are no slots here. And the first level spells, you can have, there are 3 slots, and you can only use them once. So this spontaneous spellcaster here, you can see there are two slots, and there are 2 remaining, 2 out of 2 on the first level, and the cantrips say infinity of infinity. You can cast these as many times as you want for what you know. And these ones, you can see there's 2 copies of this spell, indicating like once you cast it, it's gone, and you can't cast it again until you like I guess refresh for the day or something or other. Who knows? So spell is already expended, it's telling me. So if you're a prepared spellcaster, you come into your spell preparation and then you add the stuff. Open the spell browser, and you've got the same kind of interface here like Feats. You pick a level for what spell you're looking for, pick how rare it is. Again, if you're trying to find like a unique or super rare, there are no unique spells. A rare spell, you might want to talk about it. A lot of these are way too niche. You wouldn't find much utility in these, but common, you probably would. And then however long you can say how long it takes to cast 2 actions. If you just want 1 action spells that are like first or second level, this would be the list of those. If you wanted to say that I just want normal vanilla spells, this is what you're looking at. Drag it on over to your spell book if you're a prepared spellcaster. Glass shield here, and now you can drag this over to well, if I had a slot available, you could drag it onto a slot. Let's see if I got rid of this. I could drag this onto this slot here, and you could see that I could have that ready to cast for the day is the idea. It's the same setup for spontaneous spells, except for instead of having like a number of slots and you must fill them, you just kind of learn. You might have a pool of 5 spells you could pick from, and you can only cast 2 of them per day, for example. This is actually a lower number than you even start with at level 1, but that's the idea. So if I were to flesh out this character, I'd spend a couple minutes looking up ancestry feats, class feats. There's an archetype option. Again, you don't need to use this if you want, but it gives you breadth instead of depth. Like this might complement, or you might just take it just to kind of flesh out the idea of your character purely for roleplay. Like these are meant not really to make you a total monster, but to give you some other options that, I mean, sure, they could be strong if you're using them in a good way, but they're kind of intended to just be an option for you. So this video is longer than I intended, but that's where we're at. As always, if you guys have any questions about how this should work properly, just let me know, and I can come up with suggestions of feats for you that I understand from your character, or we'll get there together. Or if you have an idea but you can't figure out how to use it in the system, just let me know, and I can either walk it through with you, or just do it myself, or whatever you want. Choose your own adventure. Regardless, take care, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.